Welcome to this edition of Platform. I am Muhammad Kudu Abubakar. It is no more news that the federal government has given teachers in the country a deadline of December 2019 to work towards registering and obtaining the professional certificate of the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, or face dismissal. The council itself is reported to have raised alarm on what it described as deficit in the number of qualified teachers across the country with respect to number of schools and pupils population. The Teachers Registration Council says approximately between 250,000 and 300,000 teachers will be required annually to bridge the existing shortfall. What modules, if any, are being developed to ensure that only qualified teachers are those who are in classroom teaching Nigeria's future leaders? This edition of Platform examines Nigeria's teacher education system, the challenge of quantity and quality. Our guest is an educationist, a retired classroom teacher, a former principal of King's College, Lagos, who also taught in Barewa College, Zaria, in Kaduna State, Government Secondary School, Hadija, Ilorin Grammar School, and several other secondary schools across the country. Mr. Sylvester Onoja holds a Master of Science degree in Political Science and Bachelor of Science in Social Science, all from the Ahmadu Bello University's area. He also holds a National Certificate in Education, NCE, a Diploma in French from the University of Dakar, Senegal, and a Diploma in Vocational Education from Turin, Italy. And of course, he has had his Grade 2 Teacher's Certificate. Between 2013 and 2015, he served as Technical Advisor and Executive Chairman, Kogi State Teaching Service Commission. Mr. Sylvester Onoja, welcome to Platform.
Thank you.
As usual, on Platform, we have our panelists. Rashidat Mustafa Olagunju is Head of Education Desk with the NTA.
Thank you for having me.
Also here is our Current Affairs Officer, Ruth Egwele.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Sylvester Onoja, we will start from the beginning. What, in your opinion, will you say is the state of teaching profession in Nigeria today?
Well, thank you very much indeed. Education in this country is on a stretcher. It's a very serious condition. And what we know it as education, we have problems with quality and quantity. The basic thing I want to repeat, that education is on the stretcher.
Okay, before we get to this stage, what was it like then? I mean, during your time, let's start with basic education, which is the cradle of education. What was it like then?
Well, I will give you this privilege and take you around the history of education quickly in Nigeria. The first primary school in Nigeria was in 1843, St. Andrew's Primary School in Badagry. It was established by Mr. and his wife, de Graft, established that school. It was followed quickly in 1850 with the CMS Grammar School. It was then a primary school. It became a secondary school on the 6th of March, 1869, the CMS Grammar School. From CMS Grammar School, there was the Baptist Academy that came in 1855. In 1855, it was started at Obanikoro. The school is still there. And then after that, in 1859, St. Anne's School was established. First it was in Yaba for girls. Then it went to Ibadan. Then by 1878, the Methodist Boys High School was established in Lagos. And in 1879, the Baptist Girls High School was also established, making it the first girls' secondary school in Nigeria. The first teacher training institution in Nigeria was the St. Andrew's College, Oyo, in 1875. And you know, education continued this way until we got to, in northern Nigeria, the first school, apart from the failed Bida school, the Muslim school in Bida, and then the school in Kano. The real one came with Dr. Walter Miller.
In Lokoja?
Walter Miller was in Zaria. Lokoja was in 1863, Dr. Becky. But he didn't, or none of them, including the Ajayi Crowder School in Lokoja in 1873. It didn't work. The only one that worked was the one of Dr. Walter Miller in 1913. Walter Miller was a friend of Lord Lugard. They established the school in the city, but after some time it relocated to its present location in Osasa. That's the history of Western education. So while we talk about education in Nigeria before amalgamation, before amalgamation in 1914, the CMS Grammar School was existing, the Baptist Academy was existing. In fact,
are they just existing, or are they?
The
we're talking
focus
about their performance.
Exactly. You've told us the schools that were established then. This presupposes that the quality was good, even though there were few schools.
Exactly.
So why is it now that we have more schools and we have less quality?
Well, it started in 1975. In 1975, because we need to have to place them in proper perspective. You know, the UP, the Universal Primary Education, in fact, one of the very well planned policy for education. Because the problem of Nigerian education is lack of planning. But there was a beautiful plan in 1975, but the execution made it a disastrous one. When we established the UP, everybody went to teacher training college. Those who have nothing to do, mechanics and all sorts of things. Teaching is a calling, it's a vocation. But when people had nothing to do, they went. And therefore, all manners of people became teachers from 1975. We didn't get it right.
If they went to teacher colleges to be taught how to teach, then how come they came out and were not able to teach?
Well, there were not enough people who were qualified to teach them how to teach. So adulteration started from there. Not many people. Everything was emergency. You know, a crash program. You know, crash programs produce crash results. And that is what we are trying to battle and get out of.
Okay, so now if we have to look at that aspect of training of teachers, considering what you're saying, that the standards are low today, education, we know, is one of the basic fundamental right of every human being, and no nation can prosper without sound and quality education. Where do we begin to draw the line? How do we begin to say, okay, let's have a system whereby we have a periodic or continuous training for teachers? Because it falls back to the children and it gives back to society.
The greatest problem we have in Nigerian education is that there's too much politics in education. Too much politics in education. For us to succeed, we must take politics out of education. How do we take politics out of education? Education is about the best man. Well, I agree with you.
It's about what?
The best man.
Oh, okay.
Okay, if the best man could be a thief or something, but the most competent man. Unfortunately, politics has made education the most acceptable man. People who are in charge of teacher training are people who hardly have any good background in teacher training. Who do you want to become a principal of a teacher training institution? You must be somebody that is qualified. And his qualification should include a man first and foremost, a man of character, a man of content, a man of competence, a man of capacity. But if you bring a man because he comes from a particular place to be in charge, he does not know. If he does not know, he cannot teach. The problem that we have with Nigerian education largely is that there are analog teachers teaching digitally minded students. The era of teachers of my own generation is gone. When I was a teacher, a primary school teacher, I was supposed to know everything so I can teach my students. But today, a teacher has become a facilitator of knowledge. Today, there are teachers who are struggling on how to send text messages on their phones. Their students are on the internet. We now have a situation where the students are at times much more informed than the teacher because they are ahead of him. So our teacher training should look at, to meet this demand, to train teachers, quality teachers. And then to add to it, we have not helped matters. You have been to university, a lot of you jump, you're 180. At that time, if you have 180, you can go to read medicine, architecture, or whatever. But if you're going to be a teacher, you are required to have 150. Today it's 120. They're asking people who want to be teachers to have 100 will do. You go to colleges of education. Who are those who go to colleges of education? They are those who have failed in every aspect of life. They want to go somewhere else. Unless people are motivated to study.
This appears to me to be a challenge you are giving the National Teacher Institute and the various universities, education departments.
Yeah, I'm given education departments in all our universities, and particularly planning. The problem we have with education is lack of planning. We are not planning. Between 1960 to 2018, we have had 48 ministers of education. Is that good enough for planning? And of these 48 ministers of education, only 5 of them were teachers.
Only 5?
Yes. So how can education make progress if education is not treated like the Ministry of Health and treated like Ministry of Justice?
Which takes us to funding. Now, the recommendation for UNESCO is 26%, national budget for education. And last year budget, that's for 2017, we saw 6%. Now we saw an improvement, 7%. What's your take on that?
I think that we should come out with this fallacy. It is not true that UNESCO has said anywhere that you require 26% as the budget thing. It's a myth. It's not true. But we are talking about substantial budgeting for education. And I will take you down the memory lane. Let's look at the last 10 years, for example. In 2009, we had a budget of 3.49 trillion budget. What was allocated to education was 221.6 billion, which was actually 7.25%. In 2010, we had 5.160 trillion for
total budget.
Education got 249 billion, which was actually 4.83%. In 2011, education, the total budget was 4,722 billion, a trillion. Education got 306, and what we got was 6.16 billion percent. Sorry. In 2012, 4.877 trillion was the budget. What was given to education was 306, and it came to 6.16%. In 2012, it was 4.877 trillion, and what was given to education was 400.15 billion, which was 8.2%. In 2013, it was 4.897 trillion. Education got 4.26, which was 8.5%. In 2014, we got 4,962 trillion. Education got 493
Yes, that
billion.
has been the trend for a while.
All right,
also.
for a while.
Yes.
And now, this year, we got 7.2%.
So if you say UNESCO's prescription is a fallacy as an educationist,
Yes, it is.
what are you advocating?
I'm advocating adequate funding. It cannot be. Education is the key that opens the door to all.
So you are
This
saying it
country
should be more than 27% UNESCO is prescribing?
In fact, South Africa budgeted 31% for education in 2017. Ghana budgeted 29%.
Okay.
All right, so here we are. We have not budgeted money for education. Education requires money. And then education requires continuity. In 58 years, we have had 48 ministers. Where's the continuity? No minister has stayed for 4 years. You need planning to make sure it succeeds. So we don't take education seriously. If you look at those who have been ministers of education, we never had a teacher who was minister of education. In 1958, when Ajan Wachuku was minister of education, he was minister of education from 1958 to 1965. He was not a teacher. When he left,
Now let's go to the real challenges. The Teacher Registration Council is already saying for it to meet the required pupil teacher population ratio, we now have a shortfall of about 250,000. Between 250,000 to 300,000 teachers will be required annually to bridge that gap. What is your prescription?
Oh, that is true. That is true. We need all those teachers and qualified teachers. We don't have facilities to train those teachers. The existing teacher training institutions are not funded. You see, the problem we have in this country is that we have no respect for arithmetic. Nigeria has no respect for arithmetic. And what do I mean? If you have respect for arithmetic, why do you build a school? And you require 20 teachers. Then you send 5 teachers. Why do you budget 100 billion for education and you give 2? Why do you build a classroom for 40 students and you put 80? Why do you build a hospital for 10 doctors and you ask 2 doctors to manage? We must respect arithmetic. The schools are cited or schools are established. The established schools have no teachers. The ones that are cited are purely political. Or you've gone for a campaign, you have some support, I will give you a college of education. You cite a college of education. Then you post 4, 5, 6 teachers. And then it's not catered for. So that is part of the problem that we have, that we really have no respect for arithmetic. We have no respect for education. And we are not putting the right people in place to make sure that we have quality education. Those who know are not being encouraged. And because teaching is not lucrative, is not made, nobody wants to be a teacher. So the best of society don't go to be teachers.
So how do we change that narrative, starting from the younger generation?
We can change the narrative by good way other countries have gone. If you ask that those who score 250 to 350 should be the only ones that will go for teaching. If you make teaching the best job, if you pay teachers what you pay those who work in the central bank, those you pay elsewhere, people will first of all go to teach. And if you ask that anybody who makes 300 and above in JAM should go to colleges of education, to university to read with bursary, you pay salaries, you pay allowances, people want to go. If you respect the profession, people want to be teachers.
Okay.
But today, there's no respect for teachers. Teachers are not paid.
Apart from making it lucrative, let's talk about professionalism. We have the Teachers Professional Scheme. Are they doing enough to equip our teachers?
Well, it's part of what I have told you. It's part of funding. The teachers hardly have anything. Have you gone to any colleges of education? I was a product of one, and I went early. Far back in 1967, I was there. I went, it was then known as Northern Nigeria Secondary Teachers College, the Advanced Teachers College in Zaria. We had everything. We had everything. We had UNESCO staff at the College of Education. At that time, there were about 5 colleges of education in Nigeria. There was one in Zaria, there's Kano came later, the Ademi College of Education.
When you say you had everything, like what and what and what?
We had the quality of teachers. I was paid an allowance for being a student.
But I think that's part of what the Teachers Professional Scheme is doing presently. Because I remember speaking with somebody some time back, and he was even telling me that actually the scheme is having challenge because some states don't send their teachers for the scheme because everything is being paid for by the scheme for the teachers' training.
Well, I told you earlier that a lot of politics in what is happening, and the only way we can make progress is take politics out of education. Quality education is transparent. It can't be hidden. If you ask continuous education, you go to some of the local governments, who do they send to these training colleges? They send even drivers, those who are not teachers. Admin staff in the establishments are asked to go for teacher training because they are paid, they have allowances. They don't want the real teachers to benefit. And that is the hypocrisy in the whole thing. Our people are not interested in quality education. And why? Because those who are in charge of education are themselves not qualified and not interested. If you go to local governments, the councillors for education in charge of education are not likely to be teachers. You go to majority of the states, there's no teacher. You hardly find teachers who are commissioners for education. I told you earlier that the only way we can make it is to make sure that we treat the Ministry of Education like we treat the Ministry of Justice and the Ministry of Health. You cannot be a minister in the Ministry of Health if you are not a medical doctor. And you cannot be a Minister of Justice if you are not a lawyer. Why is it impossible to apply the same thing in education? If you put people who are not interested, you can't.
Would you say part of the problem is the fact that our population keeps increasing, over 198 million? Now, wouldn't that be an overburden on the resources? Because the teachers' welfare has been an issue that has been lingering on for a very long time. Now, would you pin that to the growing population?
People go to school in China. People go to school in India. They have larger populations. Education should be number one. If we get education right, we'll get everything right. Education is number one.
Now the Teacher Registration Council has given teachers the ultimatum of December 2019 to get professional certification of the council. With all this litany of challenges you have enumerated, do you think it is feasible?
Well, it is feasible. Look, there are those who have qualified as teachers but are not registered with the Teachers Registration Council. It's like you are qualified medical doctor but you are not registered with the Nigerian Medical Association or what something like that. So if you qualify as a teacher, there are lots of teachers who have the certificates and have not gone to register. Part of it is, one, of course, the number that leave school, that leave colleges of education are not employed. You go to some of the local governments, they prefer to employ secondary school leavers to teach because it's cheaper. So there are lots of people who are out there with a certificate, they have no job to do and therefore cannot register. But the right thing to do is to register. And I think that the Teachers Registration Council should go beyond registering teachers. We should go to licensed teachers.
I think that's what they're trying to do with the examination.
Yeah, that's right. I had the privilege. I was a commissioner for education in Kogi State, and I had all teachers licensed. And that is the only way we can have quality teachers. Then there will be examinations, and you renew your license, like your driving license or your airline pilot license. Not annually, and given some time. And I think that in addition to that, we should now, if we have quality teachers, if teachers are licensed, teachers in primary schools and secondary schools, some in primary schools, should be allowed to retire at the age of 65. Because the good teachers are no longer there. We have to retain the ones we have. So if you are able and willing and capable, you should be allowed to spend 65 years teaching. Retire at the age of 65.
That is at the basic level.
At the basic level.
And you're speaking from your wealth of experience, and you're speaking like a man who is very passionate about the teaching profession. Now, not many of you are out there. What would you say as regard, aside the motivation the teachers are asking for, what about self-empowerment, self-development, because they're giving back to these children who will tomorrow be future leaders? Speaking from your own experience.
You see, we talk about people, important people. Teachers are not important people. Teachers are significant people. And a significant person is a step ahead of an important person. So when you are a teacher and you influence the lives of those at 6 years, these days they are 5 years, 11 years, you don't know what they will ever come out to be. The greatest thing you can do in life is to influence people who have nothing to give back to you. And therefore, teachers like this should be encouraged. Teaching is not a common profession, and common people don't become teachers. Teachers, it's like a vocation. You go into it, and you should be encouraged at every level. So what we require is that encouragement. And the encouragement is that I know that teachers' reward is in heaven. Yes, I agree.
That's what they say.
That's what they say, that I agree. But teachers should be paid generous traveling allowances to heaven.
But I think what Kate is trying to say is, okay, I agree. All that should be done. But what about self-development? I mean, we hardly see people that have that kind of passion anymore in our teaching profession.
Or because the right people are not in the teaching profession.
Now let's
Those who are in teaching profession are there because they want to have something.
So how do we guide the right people there?
To get the right people, or put it this way, to bring legitimacy to Nigerian education is to make sure that the right people are teaching and they are teaching rightly. So that you make it, there is an incentive that will make people go into teaching. And if you go into teaching as a significant man, that you are making a contribution to and your country recognizes for making that contribution, there's the reason to go into teaching. For now, there's no reason to go into teaching.
But which should come first, the passion or for what you will get?
You need to. There are passionate people in education. They need to be encouraged. Passionate people, they need to be encouraged.
So passion alone doesn't work?
Well, a hungry, passionate man is not likely to go to deliver a good lesson in class.
Now let's look at strategies. As a veteran that you are, take us through, let's say you are talking to the various strata of governments, A, B, C, D, E, what steps should be taken? First, to encourage, to accommodate, to strengthen, to consolidate the teacher and the teaching profession in Nigeria.
Well, let me take it from the parents at home. The parents at home. The least you can do is to have some kind of respect about your child's teacher, for your child's teacher. Some respect. Because your children will copy from you. When you refer to the common teacher, and when you insult teachers, your children are likely to follow your footsteps. So the teacher must be encouraged that the small kids they teach have some degree of respect for them. That's two, the society. Once upon a time, the teacher was a very important member of the community.
Yes.
After the chief was the teacher. And if I give an example, I will use the King's College example. When King's College was founded in 1909, there were three key people in Lagos. The Governor General, the Managing Director of Nigerian Railways, and the Principal of King's College. If the Governor General was out of town, the Managing Director of Nigerian Railways was acting Governor General. If both of them are out of town, the Principal of King's College was acting Governor General of the Southern Protectorate.
It was that powerful then.
It was powerful. And when teachers who were in school, if they are regarded, they will be. But all this came to an end in 1968. You know what happened in 1968? The Civil War was on. The only set of people that were not paid salaries were teachers. So the teachers that were respected in their communities started buying gari, started buying ram on credit, and they couldn't pay. So all the respect the teachers had gone. The teacher was started owing, and the teacher who was regarded became an ordinary person. And we lost our respect from there because of the way government treated. The teacher is the most harmless civil servant.
Why were they not paid?
Oh, they were not paid because they were not the money. They were using the money to proscribe the war. And the first set of people were teachers that were admitted. And I told you that they are most harmless people. So that's how it started. And people started leaving the teaching profession to go elsewhere. So it was the beginning.
Now the turn of government.
a ton of government, the local government, they have no regard for teachers. Why should you, because of the money and because of the corruption that is everywhere, instead of employing an NCE teacher, he goes to employ a secondary school teacher who he will pay whatever he wants them to. He wants to be paid. And then we go to the state government that has no regard for education. There are about 75,000 secondary schools in this country that's run by state government. The federal government has only 104. And the teachers are not being paid. And the right people are not supervising education. There's so much politics in it. The state government say there's no money for education. For God's sake, there's so much money for education. The money that the governors use to build those airports that nobody uses, that is money for education. The money for the new government house, that is money for education. The money that we send people to go on pilgrimage, Christian and Muslim, that is money for education. The two religions have the greatest responsibility for education. In Christianity, we say, oh, my people perish for lack of knowledge. In Islam, Iqra, where the Holy Prophet has placed so much emphasis on education. The 5 pillars of Islam rest on education. So education is important and critical. So why do we do these things and ignore education? Why do you want to build a new airport? Why do you sponsor people to go on pilgrimage if you cannot educate people?
Certainly, this. Then, what will you tell political parties in this regard? Because they are now out there campaigning, talking about manifestos, talking about strategies, talking about agendas. What should they be doing? You have told us what the various strata of government should do.
The only solution to the problem of Nigeria is education. Nigeria has only 3 problems. And I want to borrow from Tony Blair. Number 1 is education. Number 2 is education. And number 3 is education. If we get education right, we will get everything in this country right. And that is why I want us to look at some of the statistics that disturbs me in this country. We have about 13, 14 million children out of school. That is dangerous for our political development. Number 2, a lot of these statistics has to do with the northern part of the country. And I will say it, I'm part of the north. We must do something about education. We must do something about education. I'll give you a few statistics. There are 75 private universities in this country. Of the 75 private universities, the Northwest has only 1 private university.
Go ahead.
The Northwest has only 1 private university, and it's in Katsina. Northeast has 2 private universities. The American University in Yola and another university in Taraba State. North Central has 5. When you add 3 plus 5,
8.
If you take that out of 75, what is? We have about
69.
69 universities in the southern part of this country. Now, as we on strike, there are 69 universities working elsewhere. They are not working up north. And we must be courageous enough to tell ourselves the truth, that a lot of these statistics is about us. What are we doing about education? Barewa College was founded in 1921 by Hugh Clifford. He was the Governor General of Nigeria. Established that school. That school has produced 5 heads of state, more than 20 governors, serving ministers. Are we giving back? We must. And the future of this country. The problem is that if education in the north is lacking, it's a problem for everybody. In this country, if one part of the country is educated and the other one is not, the danger is for all of us. and we have to come to support to do it.
Now, how do we bridge these infrastructural deficits in terms of the human numbers and also what is required to actualize that? If we're talking ensuring a sustained improvement in the policy framework for effective implementation, what's the way forward?
The way forward is commitment, political commitment, and the political will to do so. And the political will to do so. We cannot continue. We cannot get anything right in this country without education. Education is the key that opens all doors to prosperity. Nothing that we can do in this country that we can attempt without education. And we must, that is the greatest imbalance.
Now, recently you attended the National Association of Principals of Secondary Schools conference somewhere in Benin.
It was in Enugu, right?
Enugu.
The annual general meeting of the principals of Federal Unity Colleges.
Federal Unity Colleges. What did you take away from that meeting?
Oh, it was a good gathering. We have hope again. You know, King's College was the first school that was established by government in 1909. It was followed in 1927 by Queen's College. In actual sense, at about that time, there were only 3 secondary schools in West Africa: the King's College Lagos, Achimota College Ghana, and Furabe College. Those were the secondary schools at that time. Everybody came, people came from everywhere to go to King's College. It was the first unity school. Now, when Tafawa Balewa became the Prime Minister, he established 4 more. The Federal Government College Warri, Federal Government College Sokoto, and Federal Government College Okposi. Those were the colleges. They were called interregional secondary schools at that time. But in 1973, General Yakubu Gowon, as head of state, he went to Sokoto and went to Federal Government College. He liked what he saw and established 12 additional federal government colleges. Today we have 104. And they are centers of excellence. They are supposed to be there for states to emulate, to copy the standard of education. So last week, we had, I was privileged to be one of the speakers and for the inauguration of new principals. And the federal government's colleges are still keeping standards of what it takes to be a principal of a secondary school. It is still a big deal to be a principal of federal government college. That's what we went to do in Enugu. And the minister was there and the permanent secretary. And it was excellent. We came, there was a meeting. We rubbed minds, the old ones and the new ones, on how to move education forward. But what I took away from there was that the federal government colleges were becoming dangerously community secondary schools. In those days, people came from Sokoto, left Sokoto to go to Lagos. People came from wherever they are. People like Donald Duke. He went to Federal Government College Sokoto. The former governor of Kaduna State
went to Enugu.
We went to Enugu, yes. And lots of people were trained like that.
Unity.
He promoted unity. But people are no longer trying to go because there are mushroom secondary schools and states have set up schools that they don't keep. The standards going down. So we need to do something about that one. That we should make the federal government colleges go back to what they need, what they were intended.
What will you tell a parent who, because of security challenges, will not want his child to leave Sokoto and go to Enugu?
I agree with you about the security challenges, and I think we should do something about that. You know, and then some of the schools are not, some of the states are not even passing the examination, entrance examination, because the quality of primary education has gone down terribly, and we need to work on that.
In the dailies earlier today, there was this concerns about, you know, some schools extorting money from parents, you know, increasing fees for WAEC and all of that. How would you respond to that? Where did we begin to get it wrong?
We started getting it wrong when there are no schools. You know, the secondary school system is an orphan. The secondary school is an orphan. Now, there is no regulatory body for secondary schools. You have NUC that regulates universities. You have NBTE that regulates polytechnics and monotechnics. You have NCCE that regulates the colleges of education, right? You have nomadic education. You have even UBEC that regulates activities of primary schools. But there is nobody that regulates secondary school. And there are 75,000 of them in this country. So what we need to do is to have a secondary education commission. It was actually put in place by Abubakar, but of course it's no longer working. Let us have a system that will regulate secondary education. If you do that, then the abuses will go. The private schools and all that abuse their centers. People make money. They collect money. The examination malpractices take place. And therefore, the only way you attract people to come to your school is that last year we scored 100%. So that is a subtle way of promoting examination malpractice. So it is true. I collect money and hire people to come and write exams for them and all that. And it's beginning to show even in our tertiary institutions.
Rashida, you come in here.
Well, I was thinking along the earlier we were talking about the numbers of out-of-school children in Nigeria. Does the inadequate number of teachers, does it have any bearing on the large number of out-of-school children that we have in Nigeria?
No, what is responsible for out-of-school children is lack of political will. The UBEC Act says that primary education is compulsory. So if it is compulsory and you are governor of a state, why are children out of school in your state? If you are chairman of local government, why should children be out of school? It is compulsory and free. The money, there are 24 states that have not been able to access the money that is made available to promote primary education with UBEC. And a lot of them are from a particular part of the country. What are we doing? There's no political will. We are being mischievous. And people, anybody, any politician that does not take education seriously should not be considered by anybody. It's a danger to all of us.
Okay, talking about the regulatory body, I know, for, as you rightly said, for UBEC, it's not just only the primary school. We have the junior secondary school too.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was, we call it basic education. We are
not being left with just
the 9-year basic education.
Yes.
9-year basic education. 9-year basic education. But largely, that in our laws today, we have the Secondary Education Commission law by Abubakar. In fact, it functioned for 4 months. And some mischievous people took it out. And I think it has something to do with corruption. Because there are people who are interested in the proceeds of what comes to federal government colleges and all that. Okay. So they should let go. Let the commission come back.
Okay.
And regulate secondary education.
That's a charge to the Ministry of Education, isn't it?
Yes, charge to the Ministry of Education, charge to government. It's still in our law books. The Secondary Education Commission. Go and find out. It's there. Nobody has scrapped it.
You're talking about funding. Okay, we keep saying that the sector is underfunded. But at the same time, we have people that say that, okay, the little that has been given to the sector, has it been optimally used?
No. It's corruption. And I tell you that in most institutions of learning, the people that man them are the most acceptable men. They are not men of character. They are not men of competence. They are not men of capacity. They are not men of capability. And so, what do you expect? Education has only 2 purposes. Number 1, education is to teach you how to live. 2, education is to teach you how to earn a living. Those are the 2 purposes of education. How to live, your character, and how to earn a living. And now, if corruption and all that is what you know at an early age, and you make use, even the little that is given to education is not used in some cases. In some cases. And we should have a system that will monitor people. The principal of a secondary school who will make a way, who will increase what is supposed to be paid for WAEC and for NEC and all that. We should do that. We should. And corruption in the education. We
have instance in some public school where textbooks, the core textbooks being given to students, were again sold to them instead of giving it to them free.
Exactly. There are lots of corrupt people in the system. I'm not going to say there are lots of corrupt people. Because the most important thing is that there's no character anymore.
And
no character anymore.
But as a way forward, now from all you have said, you've proven that, quality, the key to quality education lies with the teachers also. Now, What would be your recommendations in terms of review of our curriculum?
Well, the first one is to review the training of teachers, that we train those who know. A situation of training of those who do not know, teaching those who do not know, will not lead us anywhere. The right people are not going to teach at training institutions because they have not, there is no prospect in the teaching profession. Number two, the ministry, the education ministry is also not helping matters. Why? Because why do you have JAMB discriminate between those who want to go and read education and those who want to read other subjects? Education is the key. Why do you allow somebody who has 180 to go and read medicine and architecture and ask somebody with 100 to go and read education? He is the one who is supposed to teach this. It should be the other way around. They should not discriminate, and that discrimination, it's this. One of the arguments they have used is that if you say it should be the same, there will be no students for colleges of education and that. Well, if you now say that education is substandard at the beginning, then you are not expecting that.
Well, in rounding of this discussion, looking through your CV, I saw that in addition to several diplomas you've had, you found time to go and read French. Is it to do with the passion you have, or the fact that you felt French was important because we were surrounded by French-speaking countries?
My national certificate in education was English-French. So I studied French and taught French in secondary schools. I taught French in Bariwa College. I taught French in Government Secondary School, Hadeja. I taught French in Ilorin Grammar School, and all the places I taught. It was part.
What will be your recommendation then, seeing that we are surrounded by French-speaking countries? There should be some bit of French in our schools, don't you think?
We tried all that before. Unfortunately, that determination, the desire, policy somersaults, 48 ministers in 58 years. Some ministers actually, there was a minister that spent 7 weeks.
Excuse me.
So there was no continuity. Education to succeed will require continuity. There's no continuity in the system.
Mr. Sylvester Onoja, former chairman, Kogi State Teaching Service Commission, thank you so very much for your time. We're out of time now. The discussion could continue some other time, certainly. When the need arises, we'll certainly call you again on platform.
Very kind of you.
Rashidat Mustafa Olagunju, Head of Education Desk at TA, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Ruth Agwele is with our NTA Network News Current Affairs Unit. Thank you so much for all your support. The last 50 minutes we've been talking with Mr. Sylvester Onoja, former chairman, Kogi State Teaching Service Commission, on the state of teacher education in Nigeria, whether the challenge of quality and quantity, or vice versa, quantity and quality. And he said it all. He said, he told us 1975 was the beginning that we started losing quality in education. And he came up with some very, very startling statistics where he said with about 75,000 secondary schools in Nigeria owned by state governments, while only 104 secondary schools belongs to the federal government. Of course, we now know that there are 14 million out-of-school children in the country. He has come up with several recommendations as to the way forward. That's Platform, and I am Muhammad Abubakar. Thank you for watching.